Well, we've been at anchor for the last few days and we're now coming into Caligari, which is the capital of Sardinia. One point is it's quite difficult to explore unless you are in a marina. You know, anchoring the boat off, you're always quite conscious about winds taking the anchor away. You're always a little bit precious about your boat. So this is one of the best opportunities to explore one of the capitals, which from what it looks like, it's quite hilly. This is the main boulevard in Caligari. You can imagine people sitting here in the 1940s drinking their espresso and a martini. How lovely. One of the things that really surprised me about Caligari, and this isn't a very well-known fact, was that it was a major U-boat centre in the Second World War. And as a result of that, it was very heavily bombed. Now, despite this, it has managed to maintain a really good proportion of its heritage and its culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a real mixing pot of culture. It's part, I guess, European Renaissance, Art Deco, and also Africa with all the local flamingo population.
Yeah, and don't forget the Romans.
Oh, how can you forget the Romans?
Looking at the amphitheatre here and trying to imagine what it was like, 2,000, 3,000 years ago when the Romans were here. And unlike many amphitheatres, this was a gladiatorial amphitheatre. And down at the bottom you can see the tunnels where the gladiators would come out, maybe for the last time. Now, the other thing that's quite interesting is that given that this was a very large submarine base in the Second World War, the amphitheatre and its caves were also used as an air raid shelter. So from housing carnivorous animals and gladiators to kill each other, it was used 2,000 years later to save people.
So apart from having a good old look around the city itself, I was quite keen to get out and see a bit of wildlife, and in particular the jara, the rare jara. So we hired a car and head off into the hills.
Okay, so we are around about 6,000 feet up, looking for the very, very scarce ponies, shortest ponies in Sardinia. Horses, sorry. And they're about 13 to 15 hands, and they're the last wild ponies in Europe, apparently.
Wild horses in Europe.
Wild horses, yes.
We actually did find some, which I thought was quite exciting, but you were so bored, and you know how I can tell when Jonathan's bored is he starts to entertain himself.
Get off my land! I can imagine these wild ponies / horses all lying around playing poker, smoking cigars, and then one of them goes, "Oh, quick lads, there's a car coming, let's act wild."
It wasn't just the wild horses. This part of South Sardinia has some of the best examples of Nuragic and Phoenician culture.
Snooze-a-rama.
I'm looking at this little tomb. Looks like something out of Star Wars, a hole that's been carved into this rock. It's a tomb where, back in 3500 BC, the locals used to bury their dead.
Well, look, honey, we had to do something.
Oh.
We were waiting for a weather window to get across to Tunisia, so we had days up our sleeve, and I didn't want to spend every waking hour in what was frankly a fairly shabby marina that was like a graveyard for boats.
Yeah, we could have gone to Bricoman. Italy's equivalent of either Bunnings or B&Q. Bricoman. This is where we spend quite a lot of our time getting stuff for the boat, like water filters, plugs, electrics, all kind of good stuff.
Actually, the water filter is my new favourite thing on the boat because it means we can drink water directly from the tap on the dock. Time to fill up our water bottles through our new water filtration system direct from the tap here on the pontoon. We refuse to buy any more plastic. So we're going as green as possible and just going to recycle these ones with our own filtered water. We love the filter.
We love the filter. Well, we'd like to get a mouth filter.
What's that supposed to mean? You being rude?
A little bit.
I'll show a bit of passion.
So imagine the scene. We're watching the World Cup in this really shabby little marina in a room which we called the Concord Lounge. And there's multiple nationalities there, maybe 8 different nationalities. And all we can hear is one mouth Morgan.
Who wanted pizza?
As loud as you like.
The football was so boring.
You're boring.
Good comeback, Dal. Good comeback. No, the one good thing about that little lounge, though, was they had a book exchange, and among the books was Sell Up and Sail, which is really poignant in our entire journey.
Oh, yeah. Bill and Laurel Cooper.
Yeah.
Now, people often ask us, what was your inspiration to start this adventure? And they were the inspiration. We saw a programme on breakfast television about 7 or 8 years ago, and they were talking about how they'd been sailing. They quit at the age of 50, and we looked at this couple in their 80s, and we're thinking, God, if they can do it, well, so can we.
Yeah. So before we actually set sail back in 2017, we decided to try and track the couple down, and we found them. Bill, unfortunately, had died 12 months earlier, but Laurel was around and as sharp as a tack and as fit as a fiddle. So we went and met her and tried to get a couple of tips from her about how to survive on the high seas. And the first thing we asked her was whether or not she was frightened when they first set off.
No, I wasn't, because I had complete confidence in it. We'd been sailing together already for more than 20 years, and I had total faith in his ability. He was a remarkable seaman.
We had our skipper's qualifications and the sum total of 30 days?
30 days.
30 days experience.
He knew an enormous amount, and he was a navigator, a trained navigator.
Of course he was, an experienced navigator. He used a sextant, for God's sake. You know, Laurel's got Bill. I've got Buggerlugs over here who can barely make it back on the boat. Do you remember, darling? Not minding the gap?
That was a big gap.
Be careful.
Look, I was more interested in finding out what, disasters that they'd had in the last 30 to 40 years of sailing.
I think it would be the hurricane that we struck north of Bermuda. We were going up to Canada to see relatives up there. We were going up to the St. Lawrence River. And we never got there because we hit this hurricane and survived it. And Bill won an award for seamanship, for being the only boat to survive without asking for assistance. And we're very proud of the fact that we never did have to call out the lifeboat.
I wish we hadn't asked, because on our maiden voyage we lasted the sum total of 6 hours before being rescued and towed back to England by the RNLI.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have the greatest of starts, admittedly, but Bill and Laurel Laurel said that at the start they weren't quite sure whether they were going to last either.
No, that's true.
We didn't know whether we would make a success of this or not, but we found that we loved it. We loved the life, we loved the freedom. Burdens rolled off our shoulders the minute we set sail. And that was the same every time we started a voyage. You felt, wonderful, we're off at sea again.
That has not been my experience at all. Every time I come out of a marina or safe harbour, a little bit of me is dying every single time.
I know, but darling, that's because we're just starting. Laurel also said, if you remember, that you learn from your mistakes. And we're doing a really good job at doing that, I think.
Well, we're getting through the mistakes, that's for sure.
What's your best advice to two amateurs when we're about to follow in your wake?
I would say enjoy it as much as you can and learn as much as you can and keep your wits about you, keep all your senses going and listen to your boat. A sailor is a practical person and you've got to be able to do these things.
In hindsight, I'm not sure watching that interview just before we were setting sail to Tunisia was the wisest of choices, because all it did was remind me that we still have so much to learn.
Yeah, of course. All I wanted to do was to stay in our dingy little marina in Caligari and go and see my lovely little ponies again.
Horses.
Horses.
Horses.